Hi everyone, let's paint greeting cards together. I'm just wetting the paper and I'm going to add a few colors. You can see my palette. It's just full of different colors which have been mixed together earlier, and all I'm doing is placing down colors randomly. You'll see it makes an impressive background, especially when you want to do things like greeting cards. Now what I'm using are a variety of greens and blues, a touch of yellow. That's a little bit of lavender I think I'd mixed. It's varying degrees of color, so it's a little difficult to tell you exactly what color I'm putting down. But the idea here is that you shouldn't get too caught up on exactly what color to use. Mix and match. Create something pretty. Although there are 4 sections here, I intended to make 4 cards. I did make 4 cards, but I didn't want this video to be too long, so I'm going to focus on just 2. I hope this will encourage you to make interesting greeting cards of your own. You can get really creative, have a touch of abstract in your cards. Just have fun doing it. I'm just laying down the color. You will see how I lay down different colors and the effects it has. I encourage you to lay down any colors that you have, even if they are really bright. Unless you actually play with colors, mix them up on your paper, only then will you really know how it looks and how you can control the flow and other things. Very often I mix my colors on the paper itself. Of course, you need not do that. I also mix colors on the palette. I've added a little bit of greenish yellow. It's just because I had it, so I've put it on. A touch of lavender. I'm showing these 4 different kinds of backgrounds so you know that you can use a variety of backgrounds. Add a touch of abstract to your work, an abstract element, just to give it a little more interest. But most importantly, just have fun doing it. Let your creativity flow. It's therapeutic, at least for me it is. Try it, you'll see. And in the end, you just might discover that you had a hidden talent. That could be just wonderful. I'm creating the impression of stems or tree trunks using my palette knife. I had a mixture of browns and some sepia on my palette, and I'm using that. When doing this, you need to be a little careful that you don't get color onto the painting below. So you need to move a little carefully, and of course I have not. I've got color there. I've got to just wipe that. The good thing about watercolor is that you can wipe it off. You can lift the color. So that's great. I mean, most of the time you can lift the color, unless it has some staining properties. I'm just adding a little more definition to my foreground now. Might add a little bit of grass and things like that before I paint the flowers or colors on the stems. I'm just teasing out a few very fine branches and I add my foliage. I think I might have added a little too much color there. Okay, that's better. That's the first layer that I've put down, and I will add a few brighter colors to that. All I'm doing is just touching the brush to the paper gently. I've added a little bit of rose madder and a touch of opera pink, but you can add any color that you have. I might even add a dash of yellow to that. Let's see how it looks. You will see as you begin layering the foliage with brighter colors, the painting literally leaps to life. You'll see. And I'm nearly done. And I start on the second one, using the same idea. With my palette knife, I add a little bit of foliage, some straggly trees or branches or stems, if you will. And I'm teasing out a few finer branches. And again on the other side. A little more rough foliage. And I start with my flowers or colored leaves or whatever you'd like to call it. Sometimes it's always nice to let the viewer interpret what you're trying to portray. Make the viewer a part of your creative process. I think that's looking quite pretty. And a few more colored leaves or flowers. Always try to lay down the lighter colors and then the darker colors over it, especially when painting with watercolor. I think that's turning out to look quite pretty. I'm adding a touch of sap green just underneath there to create an impression of leaves and perhaps a little shadow. Let's see how the overall effect looks, especially after I remove that blue artist tape. And when it's finally done, I will varnish it with wax and then mount it onto a thick cardstock. You'll see. A few final touches with a tiny spot of rose, just to highlight the bright leaves. And I think it's done. Let's remove that tape. I don't always get a very clean edge, but this looks pretty good. And that's the finished card. It's mounted on cardstock. It's been waxed. I've titled it, signed it with the date. That's Autumn Song. And that's Autumn Shine. Signed, titled, and dated. I hope you enjoyed this painting video as much as I did. Paint your own cards and let me know how it turned out. You're sure to have tons of fun. Thank you for watching and happy painting!